Ladies and gents, and boys and girls of all ages, I welcome thee to Comic Critic. If you're just joining us, this is a show where I take a look at random pieces of media I'm either on the fence with, hate, or enjoy, ranging from mostly films and shows. Well, since this is my last Halloween video for the season, maybe, I wanted to review at least one more thing related to horror, or the Halloween season before it's out. And I went back and forth with what I should do for this video, whether it was a shitty Casper movie or an episode of regular show. But I decided what I was going to go for was the filmmaker Kane Pixel, specifically his newest short, The Rolling Giant. Starting out as the creator of the Backroom short last year, he's now released another short that seems to be gaining almost the same traction. Is it related to the Backrooms? Is it a spin-off of the short he created since then? Or is it something completely new? Well, before I try to answer those, allow us to look back at Mr. Pixel's history. Before his success with the Backroom short, his channel was used to publish most of his film and VFX projects. And as far as his channel goes back, I think it's safe to say he has been practicing these crafts for a few years before making the Backroom short. He mentions in an interview he did with Anthony Padilla that he made the Backroom short because of his love for environmental horror.
I thought it was neat because I love environmental horror. I'm very obsessed with the look and feel of spaces, especially hostile spaces.
After the short's release, it of course blew up in popularity, and currently at 53 million views. Since then, he's made a few other shorts related to the Backrooms lore, one being of a kid getting trapped in the Backrooms, and another being of what I can only guess is the government utilizing the Backrooms for research, but also as some sort of storage unit or office space. Sometime after he did this last year in 2022, he made a couple of videos in relation to what I'm guessing is a trilogy for now titled The Oldest View. The first video is about the making of a cardboard face, and the second one about a guy walking around the woods, and discovering a concrete stairwell that goes for miles into the ground. This then leads us to where we are today, as of recording this. Assuming you've seen the previous parts of the trilogy, our protagonist, who I believe is named Wyatt, monologues at the beginning about how he's going to be investigating the stairwell he found recently. Once he gets to the bottom of the stairwell, which takes a good while, he finds himself now inside of an abandoned mall, which is random but also a creative idea to find miles underground. He wanders the abandoned mall for some time, looking around, hearing things, almost like any other Urban Explorer video. It does go on for a good while of Wyatt walking around, but you could say is for good effect to build up atmosphere. At random points, the places he went to before also somewhat change, now having vines and overgrowth to them. It can leave to the imagination as to why that is. Maybe the more clean version the main character sees is an illusion, while sometimes visually flashing back to reality. I'm not sure if that's actually the case, but again, it is good to leave stuff like that to the imagination, especially when you see that there's supernatural entity going around. Which brings us to Wyatt finding the star of the show, the Rolling Giant himself. Which, fun fact, is a real thing, but I'll come back to this element later. Funny enough, the giant himself actually reminds me of the Frankenstein monster during the Alice Cooper shows a little bit. Anyways, he first stumbles across it when looking around one of the darker areas of the mall, and every once in a while sees him in another area. The short does seem to drag on once the giant isn't on screen after a while, but by the time the giant appears right behind Wyatt, that's when the short really picks up. The giant then begins to chase him up an escalator. Guess someone didn't like Escalator Land.
When do we get to the ride?
This is the ride!
Yippee!
Wyatt then runs off to find another exit, but finds out the one he came in from is now encaved, and tries looking for another one. While being chased by the giant, he then breaks into another store, wandering through the abandoned offices and cubicles. Eventually, Wyatt makes his way back to the escalator, being chased once again, but sees upstairs that there is a stairwell back up to the surface. As Wyatt attempts to get to the stairwell, this happens.
You fucking kidding me? You gotta fucking kidding me. What do you want? Oh God.
There is a theory as to why this right here happens, and to put it simply, it's implied here that the giant wants to possess the main character, for undisclosed reasons, but could also tie into the giant's backstory. The giant then charges at Wyatt, cracking the walls, but he's able to go on the dangerous support beams to reach the stairwell back to the surface. Then he falls. Aside from Wyatt dying, it's unknown what really happens after this. The short, just like some of Kane's other works, is another attempt at making a film where the real horror of it is the environment, even with the giant himself being effectively unsettling. Even with the previous parts to this, it gives us a bigger build-up to the climactic elements of the third entry. From what I could gather, it revolves around an artist who once wandered around the woods many years ago, then someone making a statue out of him made of cardboard and paper mache. The main protagonist then finds a stairwell, where the rolling statue somehow got to, and the artist likely possessing it, in the hopes of maybe possessing a human instead. Going back to what I said earlier, this was based on a real statue, made and reminiscent of a real guy. I haven't looked much into who he was, but I do know that the statue made of him was put in an actual mall, but sadly was abandoned and demolished as of recent, which Kane himself even modeled after for his mall used in the short, and I think that's pretty cool. It really feels like Kane wanted to put a subtle, but interesting story together with his love for environmental horror, and this here was a decent execution. Though going back a bit again to what I said in the beginning, this isn't a direct sequel or spin-off of the Backrooms. If anything, it's more of a side project in the meantime because of Kane working with A24 on the Backrooms movie, which, my god, he has to be really fortunate for. Considering everything I've seen from A24 has been good, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Kane can do with a full-fledged Hollywood production. If only my project could catch the eyes of an A24 executive. Anyways, I seriously can't express enough how insanely talented he is. Even making the Backrooms itself look so realistic, which can be seriously difficult for 3D artists, especially when mixing it with live action a little bit. That said, Kane really seems to be going in a great direction with his projects, and I'm way more than looking forward to seeing what he has in store for us. I'll also leave a link in the description to a video that goes further in depth on the meaning behind the Rolling Giant short. It really fills in a lot of gaps. With that said, thank you all for watching. If you like what you saw, like, comment, and subscribe. This is Mr. Tim on Comic Critic, and I'm off.